We're an island nation, drawn to the sea that surrounds us. For many, it's a playground. For others, it's where we earn our living. But the sea's unpredictable. It can change in an instant. And when accidents happen, they happen very fast.
On the sea, you have to expect the unexpected. It will just turn around and bite you.
Mayday! Mayday!
There to save our lives is a volunteer army of nearly 5,000 ordinary people.
When the pager goes off, we don't know what the shout is, where it is, how many people are involved. It could be anything.
Where do you feel the pain, Alex?
My back and my leg and my neck.
Stuart, just hold the boat!
I am so thankful that they came.
Things could have turned out to be a lot worse.
I've had people drown in front of me. Before we've got there, that person's gone.
Calm down, you're okay, pal.
Equipped with their own cameras,
My light flashing. That's mine.
the crews give us a unique insight into every call-out as only they see it. Speeding through the roughest weather, searching for people who may only have moments to live. For those who risk their lives, it has become a way of life.
The decisions we make on a lifeboat can all mean the difference between life or death.
Of the 238 lifeboat stations that guard our waters, 46 are located across Ireland, covering everything from inland waterways to wind-swept bays and beaches to the wave-battered cliffs of the Atlantic Ocean. 2 hours south of Dublin, on the southeast coast, Courtown's first lifeboat station was established in 1865.
Courtown's small. It's basically had kind of established itself initially as like a small little fishing harbour, and then during the 1930s it kind of developed then as a holiday destination, mainly for Dublin people.
I suppose with any fishing village or harbour, the lifeboat is a big part of it. You know, there's collection boxes in every pub and shop.
There's even a corner of the local church dedicated to it.
Being part of the RNLI, it's like being part of a wider family. Whenever we go to the boathouse, it doesn't matter who we are, where we've come from, what we do in our everyday life. The only thing that really matters is that we can rely on each other and we can trust each other. We can work together as a team.
Late summer. Courtown's busiest time of year. A call comes in from a member of the public.
The first information we had was that there was a jet ski in trouble.
As we kitted up, the news was starting to trickle in that it was more than just a broken down jet ski. It's actually there was casualties in the water.
The presence of casualties raises both the stakes and the degree of urgency.
And if you're drowning, it's literally every second that you're under the water is affecting your chances of survival.
What's your number? 11, what's your number?
Paramedics talk about the golden hour, you know, but I mean, you have an hour because you're on land, but if you're at water and you have a chance of drowning, I mean, you're going to drown in a matter of seconds, you know, once you go under.
Peter, look! It's got a donut attached to it, the jet ski. There's someone there as well. And there's someone here. Oh, yeah, okay. Someone there in the water, yeah.
Are they conscious? Are they unconscious? Are they breathing?
Are these severe injuries? What kind of injuries? What equipment are we going to need?
So there's a whole lot of different things going through your head.
Okay.
The crew find 2 people drifting in the water and move in to assess the situation.
How long have you been in the water for?
Probably about 10 minutes, I'd say.
Okay. 10 minutes, okay.
Fergus, I'm going to let you into the water to assess.
A 13-year-old girl, Alex, has been badly injured after the inflatable ring she was on was thrown several feet in the air whilst being towed by a jet ski.
Okay, Alex. So, hey, Alex, how are you? Yeah. So where do you feel the pain, Alex?
My back and my leg and my neck.
Your back back in your lane. Okay, can you just wiggle?
Cold and in pain, Alex is being kept afloat by her father, Mark.
Yeah.
The minute she hit the water, I could just hear her scream. I just kept thinking, you know, how this good day had gone so horribly wrong.
Okay, can you just wiggle your toes for me? Yeah. Can you wiggle these toes? Can you feel me tiddling you there?
Yeah.
Okay, and how about that one?
No.
You can't feel that one?
No.
Okay, can you feel any pressure there?
No.
Okay. How about there, on your calf, your leg?
Yeah.
You can feel it there?
Yeah.
Okay, so down to the ankle?
No.
I just knew by her voice that this wasn't, this wasn't just she hurt herself. This was severe pain she was in. And she's a tough girl, so all the worst is going through your mind, and what's the worst case scenario?
Okay, with the spinal, the thing is, the least movement of the head and neck, the better, okay?
I've had to tell him straight away and just say, look, this is a suspected spinal injury. And I would rather be honest with the man, and say, look, this is a serious issue we've got here,
If I was to ask you, a 10 being the worst pain you've ever felt, and 1 being the least pain, where would you put that pain that you feel?
8.
8, okay.
The casualty, you could just hear it in her voice. You could hear the pain in her voice. You could see her chin was just quivering with the cold. We need to get this girl to the hospital as quickly and as safely as possible. So I decided to call in the helicopter.
When I heard the radio and I heard them radioing for the chopper, I suppose I got the fear then set in with me. Well, if that's what they're thinking, then my worst fears were going to be realised. Absolutely terrifying, yeah.
You're doing absolutely incredibly there, Alex. Well done. Alex is down on holiday.
The helicopter is 60 miles away in Waterford. At this stage, the lifeboat crew would ordinarily pull a casualty into the boat, as the summer sea temperature here averages under 14 degrees. But this is no ordinary situation.
Spinal injury? Yeah. Okay. We don't want to lift you into the boat because we'll have to lift you up. So what we're going to do is we've requested a heli on scene, okay, and what they do is they'll have a basket that they'll be able to put you into,
And there's no way of getting her onto an inshore lifeboat without significant movement.
Any slight movement runs the risk of doing further damage and the possibility of the casualty having life-changing difficulties.
They have no choice but to try and limit her movement, and a second crewman is committed to the water.
Okay, what I'm going to do, I'll explain what I'm going to do to Alex, okay? I'm going to grasp your head at either. This is Tom, my colleague, and we're going to see can we get this on to you, okay? Alex. Okay, so I'm just going to pull your life jacket down a little bit down so we see can we... Okay, okay. Okay.
The biggest issue is every movement then that's made is the possibility of actually making that injury worse, to the extent where, well, is this child going to end up in a wheelchair for the rest of their life? I mean, that there is that possibility.
With Alex now well supported, the crew takes steps to avoid having a second casualty in the water.
It's just so Mark doesn't get too cold either. We're just going to give him a spot in the boat for just to warm up a little bit, That's very
Because he was wearing a short wetsuit, we made the choice to put him in the boat.
Leaving Alex in the water and getting into the boat felt like it was the wrong thing to do, because as a father you want to be with her. But I knew myself that I was so cold that it was time that, I couldn't stay in the water much longer.
15 minutes after radioing for assistance, there's still no sign of the helicopter.
You need TA, Pete?
Okay, the chopper's doing a hot refuel. Should be in the air in a few minutes. 20 minutes, I'd say.
20 minutes.
When we heard that the helicopter was delayed, I know my own heart sank.
The helicopter had been out training and were low on fuel, and they had to do what they consider as an extremely dangerous manoeuvre, which is they do what they call as a hot refuel, which basically they don't turn off the engines, they just drop at the airport, refuel it, and they're straight up.
Alex has now been in the water for over 20 minutes, and must remain there for at least 20 more.
So now Fergus and I have a different task to do. We try to find little light-hearted things to talk about. Anything that would distract her.
Besides being on the jet ski and doing that kind of stuff, what other kind of stuff do you enjoy doing?
Swimming and running.
Swimming and running? Oh wow, so you're fairly good. You're keeping fit anyway.
You have two 40-plus men in the water that don't have children, trying to find something in common to talk to, you know, a teenager about, trying to keep her distracted.
I thought now you might be an Ed Sheeran man, you see, or a woman. I thought Ed Sheeran, is everyone's favourite these days, I thought.
Yeah.
Do you like him?
Yeah, he's good.
I don't know an awful lot about pop music. Yeah.
I see Taylor Swift. Did you see Taylor Swift is in court? Yeah, there's somebody suing her over something. Isn't that something, isn't it?
Waiting for those 45 minutes seemed at times like a lifetime. We were feeling quite drained ourselves, so we can only imagine what Alex was feeling.
Finally, after Alex has spent almost an hour floating in the cold sea, they hear something.
There it is. I see it. I see it now. Don't you lift your head now, Alex, okay? But I can see the heli coming from here.
Well, you hear the helicopter before you see it, and where we were in the water, there is an immense relief, kind of knowing that these guys are coming, you know.
The man from the helicopter, he's after coming down on a rope.
The winchmen are fully qualified paramedics, advanced paramedics.
Now the helicopter is on the scene. The crew have to carry out the most difficult and dangerous task of all, getting Alex out of the water.
Okay, Alex. So we're going to try this on the Alex, okay? You'll feel a lot more support once it's on.
The helicopter had a spinal board, which is just a solid board, basically, that we slide in under the casualty so we can lift them so they remain as straight as possible.
So Alex, stay looking straight up.
Yeah, okay. Let's do three.
Okay, so make sure, get under our armpits. There you go. Perfect.
At that stage, then, Barry, the winchman, had made the decision that we were going to go into shore and winch her off the beach rather than winch her from the sea itself.
She was still in quite a lot of pain, but remarkably brave.
The crew now work fast to make up for lost time, immobilising Alex's head and neck and wrapping her up, ready to be winched into the helicopter overhead.
When you feel the wind coming, Alex, close your eyes as tight as you can until you feel that you're up in the air. Okay, because there'll be all this wind and everything going all over the place. Your daddy will be with you on the heli as well, okay?
Mark is winched up first. Finally, Alex joins him, and they are hurried away to the hospital in Waterford.
My dad helped calm me down, and I just kept saying to myself I had to keep calm just so everything would go all right. He was worried inside, but he didn't want to show it in case that worried me. And he was just trying to hold it together for me, I could tell.
For her age and for the person she is, I think, you know, she's definitely one of the bravest people I know, because to go through that, it was very, very frightening.
And the lifeboat crew, with their job done, return to base and their normal lives, unaware of Alex's fate.
Sometimes we don't know what the outcome will be. So sometimes you're left wondering, hoping for the best, but wondering what's actually happened.
When I got to the hospital after taking the helicopter, when I started feeling my feet again, they said I was probably going to be okay. So that's when my mum was happy.
In the end, Alex had a pressure injury, not a fracture, and the feeling to her leg returned within hours of being rescued. Like most crew members, Tom is a volunteer. But in this case, his day job is as central to the community as the lifeboat station.
I do have quite a prominent role here in Courtown in my day work, in my job. I'm with people quite a bit in lots of different situations. And I really see my volunteering with the lifeboat as being an extension of that. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. The Lord be with you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome as we gather together to celebrate our Mass this morning. The Lord be with you. Lift up your hearts. So the church here is Our Lady Star of the Sea. For us here by the seaside, it's about guiding us home. I think it's important to make the connection between the lifeboat station and what happens here. So say, for instance, if there was a shout during the week, if there was a call out, I would refer to that. Maybe at Sunday Mass, just say, we just want to thank everyone involved who was there on the rescue. I'm drawn to just how far back this connection with the lifeboat goes. This was one of the early lifeboat stations to be established, and it's quite humbling to be part of that history and just the way of being able to serve the community in this way.
The Blackwater Estuary in Essex is a complex network of islands, salt marshes and mudflats that appear at low tide only to vanish again a few hours later.
We have a lot of small creeks. These are very tidal. We have a sandbar which dries out at low tide and catches a lot of vessels out, especially pleasure craft.
Located on the largest island in the estuary is West Mersey Station. With more than 150 lives saved in its 55-year history, it's one of the busiest in the British Isles.
If you don't know what the sea is like, if you don't have the local knowledge to the tides and the directions and the wind, people can get caught out quite quickly. It looks beautiful, and it is beautiful, but it can be unforgiving. People can lose their lives.
And on West Mersey's patch, not even cars are safe from the tides.
One route on and off our island here is the Strood. That's the road that will flood when the tide is high, and that's the one that will give you the problems. So if you try and go on the island or come off the island when it's like that, you stand a very good chance of being stuck if you drive through it.
The Strood only floods during high spring tides, but there are other causeways in the estuary that disappear daily when the tide turns and regularly catch out drivers.
Cars can get stuck on it, they can get stuck in the water. Bigger the tide, the bigger the problem can be. You will come a cropper and you will be in serious danger.
Local police have spotted a partly submerged van on a causeway, and the tide is rising fast. Because of the huge fluctuation of tides here, the rescue vessel, an Atlantic 85 B-class RIB or rigid inflatable boat, has to be taken to the water by tractor.
Information came through that they didn't know if the driver was still in the vehicle or where he was. He couldn't be found. That immediately ramps up the pressure on us to get there.
This boat usually has a crew of 4, but not today.
We went with 3 crew because we felt we needed to get there as quickly as possible.
Short on crew and time, they head upriver to the stricken van.
Best case scenario, hopefully they've got out before the tides got too high and got themselves somewhere safe. I'd say worst case scenario is they're trapped in it, they could be drowning. It could be a matter of we're trying to drag them out of a submerged vehicle.
The van is 10 kilometres away on the OC Causeway, which disappears beneath the waves daily.
The tide is coming in, so if we were slow or sluggish, the repercussions of that could be serious.
Even travelling at their top speed of 35 knots, it takes the crew 14 minutes to reach the van, by which time it's almost totally submerged. The tide's still rising, and the crew can't see into the van. Helm Matt commits a crew member to the water for a closer look.
So I jumped onto the front of the bonnet, but couldn't get a good view in.
We couldn't see through the windows because the water was up. That was a concern in the back of your mind. Are we going to get into this vehicle somehow and find there's somebody stuck in there? There's always the chance that the person or persons didn't have time to get out. Modern vehicles, everything is electronic these days, and electronics shut everything down. The brakes will come on, the windows won't be able to open. The central locking could lock all the doors. You could literally be sitting inside a metal box, locked inside. And the one option we had left was to try and break a window to get in.
Try with them. There we go.
You do prepare yourself, because you could be going there looking in that car that's submerged, and you could be the worst case scenario where there's a body in there, and at that point you have to think you're going to have to be dragging that out.
Nothing in there.
Very relieved when we could confirm that the vehicle was actually empty.
There's a grille to the back, but so nobody can get from the front to the back, so...
It's relief to know that there wasn't anybody in there.
But the relief doesn't last long. The submerged van now poses a risk to other vessels. They mark it with a buoy and turn to the urgent matter of the missing driver.
Had they tried to come out of the vehicle, had they got swept away in the tide, had they got stuck in the mud, because there's soft mud either side of this muddy road. And that's the next thing that goes through your mind. If they're not in the vehicle, where are they?
To try and solve the mystery, the crew head inshore to talk to the police officer who first spotted the van.
Bash the boat over. He's just come back. Okay. All right, mate.
Over West Mersey, as we've approached the police officer on shore, he's just stated that the owner has come back to the causeway. Over.
How he ended up where he did at the time, whether it was a genuine mistake or whether he did not even know that this road would be underwater in a very, very short period of time, or whether he actually tried to drive through it. I don't know. But this one was the most serious I can remember for quite a long time, and the most worrying.
I think for an island nation, I don't think we have really a great grasp of the sea and its power.
Christ, he's in the middle of a rough patch.
Things change at sea literally within minutes.
Anyone can get caught out. You know, it could be an equipment failure, the weather, turning.
There's always that rogue wave or catch a propeller. You just don't know.
Move back.
Experience of the sea and an understanding of the sea and the area that you're in will almost certainly help you to a certain extent, but that doesn't stop accidents from happening. It'll still catch you out and bite you if you're not careful.
The one thing that's predictable to see is the fact that it is unpredictable. That is the one thing, yeah.
Tor Bay in South Devon lies on a stretch of coastline known as the English Riviera.
Tor Bay is built up of three main towns, Torquay, Paignton and Brixham. Brixham obviously being the best one, where the boat is based.
The area plays host to over 4 million visitors annually, the majority coming in summer.
It's a very picturesque, lovely little town, fishing port. Fishing being the main industry, tourism being the other one.
One of Tor Bay's greatest attractions is also its greatest danger, the sea.
We have quite a few headlands in between the beaches. Off Berry Head and around what we call the south side of Berry Head, there's always water against the rocks, so you tend to, you know, any weather from the easterly at all, you've got no place to get out. If you were in trouble down that area, you end up getting smashed on the rocks.
Generally, as soon as we get an easterly, we get quite a big swell in the bay. People have gone from flat, calm sea to 2, 3, 4 foot of swell, and they just get massively caught out.
It's mid-August. The sun is out, but a fierce wind is beginning to whip up a big sea.
Lots of people about, lots out doing stuff. An absolute glorious day, but blowing an easterly gale. And the two really didn't mix, so I think the sunshine and the blue sky was very tempting to go out in your boat, other than the sea conditions were rubbish.
But a rolling sea is no deterrent for some. And just after 1 o'clock, the alarm sounds for the second time that day.
So we'd heard that a boat had been hit by a big wave in the mouth of the River Dart. There was a pregnant lady on board who was quite sick, and a small child and a husband. The guy couldn't get the engine started.
They were getting blown onto the rocks down off Dartmouth. By this time, the weather was properly fresh.
Watch out, what is your ETA?
The Brixham station has 2 lifeboats, an ALB or all-weather boat and a smaller ILB or inshore lifeboat. Because of the sea conditions, the bigger ALB heads out on the Shout.
As soon as we turned round Berry Head, it just hit you, and it was quite a big swell. We were also told they'd established a tow with a fishing vessel, and the fishing vessel had pulled them off but couldn't take them to safety, so that's why we were called.
First priority was make sure all the casualties on board were okay. A little bit concerned because of the lady being pregnant, make sure she was comfortable. Once we'd ascertained that, it was a case of attach a tow line and start the trip home.
Thanks to the fishing vessel and the speedy response of the lifeboat crew, a potentially life-threatening situation has turned into a routine tow. But not for long.
We were towing the vessel back to Brixham, and we had a broken mayday on the radio. Because it was a broken mayday, we didn't really know what had happened, but obviously a mayday is a serious shout.
A mayday call means someone is in a life-threatening situation. The crew listen out for more information, only to hear silence.
I couldn't hear anything, no communication back on the radio, and then the radio itself got wet. And then I lost it in the end. The wave came along and it just disappeared.
I'm in trouble. We heard nothing else. The Coast Guard had picked up some of the information, and we realised it was coming from quite close to where we were.
With a dead boat already in tow and the sea conditions worsening, the ALB isn't able to investigate. They're forced to launch the second, smaller lifeboat.
In no normal circumstances would we have ever have launched it in those conditions. The decision to go was a no-brainer. We had to go and help this woman. It was more about the balance of how do we get there quickly without breaking anybody and capsizing the boat.
In those conditions, it was going to be a slow, rough run out. Short, choppy seas. It was going to be bouncy. It was going to be wet.
Though it may be hard going for the crew, they know it's nothing compared to what the casualty is going through.
I knew where I was, I couldn't get out. I knew I was in trouble. I was scared at that point, I have to say. I was scared. I didn't want to be there.
With her radio lost, Jeanette now tries phoning the Coast Guard.
Because it's in the phone case, you can't actually hear anything from that phone. So again, I didn't have any feedback. And that was really scary because I didn't know whether anybody's coming to rescue me at that point. And my concern then was because I was getting nearer the cliffs.
Having exhausted all high-tech forms of communication, Jeanette turns to more direct methods.
I could see people up on the cliff that were waving. I didn't know if they were waving to acknowledge that they'd seen me and they've raised alarm, or they were just waving.
Unknown to Jeanette, the onlookers have called the Coast Guard. From their elevated position, they can also see the ALB out at sea and presume it's there for the kayaker.
I know there were several calls about her. They could see a lifeboat, we couldn't see any action, and all they could see the lifeboat doing was towing another vessel. Everybody was watching this woman kind of drowning in glorious Technicolor.
While Mark and his crew travel as fast as they dare to Jeanette's position, she still has no idea help is on the way or whether she'll be spotted in the rolling sea.
The sea is very vast, and when you start looking, and it's very rough. You know, you hear stories of people being in the sea that can't be seen because of wave height.
A person in the water in those conditions is 1,000 to 1 almost. You're not going to see it. You're in a confused sea. And unless you're specifically looking at one point, it's a needle in a haystack.
It's a very scary situation. My logic at that time was to use my paddle so people could see me a little bit further away.
The only time we ever saw her was we saw her lifting her paddle up. And it just caught her eye. You know, we didn't see the kayak, didn't see her in the swells, but every now and again we saw this black paddle.
Then I saw a lifeboat coming towards me, and it was relief. I knew then I'd be fine.
Let go of the paddle. Let go of the paddle, right. Okay, ready, 1, 2, 3. Right, down again, Elmer. 1, 2, 3.
She probably had another 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and she would have ended up on the rocks. And that will probably have been the end of it.
That's it.
The ILB hooked her out of the water and tore straight back over to us.
Although finally free from the waves, after almost 40 minutes, Jeanette is still very much in danger.
She wasn't in a very good way. She was incredibly cold and in a lot of shock, so she needed a lot of help to get from one boat to the other.
Yeah, you are on your feet. Steady, steady.
She looked absolutely terrified. She was very pale. She wasn't talking very much at all, which is always a little bit of a concern.
You okay? Yeah.
And then when we got on the boat trying to warm her up, she just got quieter and quieter and started to sort of drift off to sleep.
It became a little bit concerned because we thought about secondary drowning.
Secondary drowning can occur after a casualty has taken water into their lungs, which gradually stops them from breathing.
The priority was made that she should be evacuated by helicopter to Torbay Hospital.
But now they have another problem. Airlifting a casualty at sea is an incredibly difficult procedure, especially if towing another vessel. With the helicopter inbound and time ticking away, the ILB takes over the tow of the leisure craft so the ALB can begin the transfer.
You're very aware of this helicopter coming in close. It feels like about 5 feet above your head. Great big white monstrosity above you, pushing loads and loads of air down on you.
The sight of the helicopter and lifeboat off Brixham Harbour draws plenty of onlookers, including Jeanette's husband Alan, who suddenly realises his wife is very laid back from her paddle.
So I tried calling her a few times and there was no answer, or the phone wouldn't connect. And then I did start to panic a bit, and I just wanted to get down to the lifeboat station as fast as I could. I said, you know, could you put my mind at rest? Are you looking for a lady kayaker? And sort of they pointed out the window, and I looked and could see Jeanette being winched up into the helicopter.
Jeanette is flown directly to Torbay Hospital to be treated for secondary drowning and hypothermia. And the two lifeboats, with Roger, Mark and their crews, head back to the station. But the day isn't quite done with them yet. All in all, the easterly wind blows 7 shouts the Torbay crew's way.
It is one of the busiest days I've seen in the last 30 years, yeah. But these all probably made a difference to everybody we went out for. They were all absolutely genuine right from the start to the end, and that all needed clearing up and could have been a lot worse. You know, there could have been a few fatalities that day. There were a few people who were very lucky.
It hasn't made me want to stay away from the sea. It's made me respect the sea.
Getting caught out at sea can, happen to anybody. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. Accidents always happen.
Back in the island community of West Mersey, the station crew continue to watch over their very particular patch of coastline.
Mersey is a beautiful place. It's the most easterly inhabited island in the UK. We're 50 miles from London, and I commute to London for work, but you couldn't get more a polar opposite from central London.
You have your winter island and your summer island. Summer island is absolutely heaving. I think now we're one of the most popular places to come in the UK. Get a lot of people down the waterfront here out on jet skis, speedboats. Whereas in the winter, all the moorings are near enough empty. It's just your fishing boats, tumbleweeds blowing down the road. There's just no one about.
But even in the dead of winter, people still head out onto the water and get themselves in trouble.
When the pager goes off, we don't know anything. I mean, so when you go down, you don't know what you're dealing with.
Early January. Clear, bright, but very cold. The Coast Guard receives a call that a kite surfer off the coast has been floating helplessly for some time.
When you get a shout and someone's in the water, you always focus your attention because in winter it can be cold. So at that point, it was just very focused on getting to the right place at a good time.
Yep.
Sometimes if you get wind against tide, you can have quite choppy conditions.
If you are a casualty in the water and you're getting dragged out to sea by the tide, it is a very, very serious situation and things can turn south very quickly. You could end up, well, you could end up in Europe. You could end up anywhere.
Luckily, this kite surfer was with a buddy who managed to make it to shore and raise the alarm.
Kite surfer in the water, you're sort of thinking, well, how does he end up in the water? Is he injured? Yeah, where's his equipment gone? Is he still with his kite?
If you know that they're going to be difficult to spot, it adds pressure to the search because you're not looking for an object, you're looking for a person.
Obviously, if he's quite low in the water, there's a vessel that's coming towards him and they're not paying attention, they could run him over and they wouldn't even notice. Most of the time, to be honest, yeah, they wouldn't even realise what they'd done.
We were on scene and we located him within about 4 or 5 minutes, and that's remarkably quick.
Have you packed your legs away? Around your legs? Do we need to check them? Okay. There's no lines in the water? No, yeah? Lines are in the water, but lines are in the water. It's not sure how far they are in the water. Most of them are wrapped around his legs. He's probably best to approach from behind him.
Yeah, when we're approaching a kite surfer, it can be very dangerous with all the lines that come off a kite. They can very quickly get wrapped around their propellers or anything, and then we find ourselves stuck as well.
Well done, mate. Grand job. Take my foot if you want. Bag. Right. Ready, Jason? No, it's too far. There you go, Tim. You all right, mate? Are you cold? Yeah, I'm all right. So no medical?
When we plucked him out, I was amazed that he was so laid back.
The lifeboat crews undergo extensive training to prepare them for all kinds of rescue situations. But even they can sometimes get caught out.
I was surprised with the amount of lines wrapped around his leg. I mean, it was the worst knot I've ever seen. It was an absolute mess.
So need some quick release or something?
Yeah, I spent quite a long time untangling it, and it was an absolute nightmare.
We do carry knives and things on the boat to cut lines out and things, but I know they don't thank you for doing it because all their gear is very expensive.
How long have you been in the water? An hour and a half. Hour and a half, okay. Yeah, we have a mate. Where did you get all this from? Whereabouts? Do you know where that windsurfing place is? Yeah.
He did a lot of things right. The fact that he kite surfed with a buddy and he was equipped and prepared. It was a freak accident. On the day, it was not the best weather, and the wind was very, very gusty, so it wasn't like a predictable wind. So I think a gust of wind took his kite out of control and got him into that situation. So it just shows that it can happen to anyone.
Over 300 miles to the west of Mersey, the Dart lifeboat station watches over a very different stretch of river.
Dartmouth's a very busy place. You've got a lovely river, which is fantastic, but there's so many boats on it. There's so many marinas.
You can go from the very slow-moving, quite smooth waters of the inner river, and then as you come out towards the Sea S03, you start picking up the tidal areas.
There's lots of trot moorings in the middle of the river, lots of big buoys. You've got a fixed ferry running across on fixed wires. There's lots going on the Dart.
Opened in 2007, the Dart station is one of the youngest in the region. It has a D-class inshore boat and an active crew of 21. But on one late September weekend, many are away for a 50th birthday celebration. They've called in a helm from nearby Tor Bay to cover, just in case.
So I got down there and I covered the boat through Friday night. Dartmouth have fewer shouts than Brixham. They still have a good number of shouts. They hadn't had a shout for a few weeks, I don't think, at that point. As the night went on, it got less likely that I was going to get a shout.
But just after 11 o'clock, as James is climbing into bed at his B&B, an urgent call comes in from the Falmouth Coast Guard. A water taxi pilot at the end of his shift has heard a shout for help coming from the river.
As soon as I got on station and the information started to come through that it was somebody in the water and that it was an elderly gentleman that was in the water and he'd been in the water for quite some time, the urgency suddenly escalates.
The River Dart is challenging enough to navigate during the day, but now James has to go as fast as he dares through unfamiliar and dangerous waters.
The river that night was pitch black. There wasn't a lot of light from the actual river itself.
Searching with a spotlight can be quite technical. People think you're just waving a torch in the dark. You have to be careful because obviously the helm is trying to helm a boat in the dark using his night sight. If you catch the spotlight wrong and you catch the orange of the lifeboat, especially with the reflective bits, it can cause him to lose a little bit of his ability to see in the dark.
I know there's lots of lines that are often strung between mooring buoys in the river. Because it was so dark, you couldn't make those lines out.
It's the one on the end, KU. It should be the end one, Hayden.
The river taxi skipper who alerted the Coast Guard is marking the place where the old man is trapped. But in the dark, among the forest of masts, he's hard to spot. And every extra minute spent in the cold water reduces the old man's chance of survival.
Worst case scenario sort of goes through your mind. His vulnerability is obviously a lot higher. You've got hypothermia to think about. The water in the actual river itself is probably colder than average sea temperatures. All these types of things go through your mind.
Yeah, this is it. Got it?
Suddenly, a figure emerges from the darkness.
Right, just drop one of you off.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll swing round.
I've got a small torch, yeah.
Once we arrived on scene, we came up on one side of the pontoon. Because it's a floating pontoon, we weren't sure which side of the pontoon that the casualty was.
I've got him tied up.
The water taxi skipper has dropped a life ring in the water to support the casualty, but has been unable to pull him out.
Go back round that way.
When they came, I mean, that was, relief. Huge relief.
Right, we'll go round.
The frightening thing was that I saw this man just deteriorating over time, and that was the most upsetting part, really, because I thought he was dying without a doubt.
You can go back round that way. That way.
Dropped Hayden onto the pontoon as Chris and I went round the opposite side of the pontoon, which is the side the casualty was actually on.
In my mind, as a medic first now, is going through his cold water immersion, patient condition, length of time in the water, frailty, how we're going to get him out.
The temperature of the River Dart in September is around 15 degrees Celsius, cold enough to render an 80-year-old man unconscious in under an hour.
I need to get this casualty out of the water. He's cold, he's wet, he's been in the water for 45 minutes. He needs to be in the boat and he needs to be in the care of an ambulance.
His position, wedged between the pontoon and a moored yacht, makes it impossible for even the lifeboat crew to pull him out.
I couldn't quite reach him from the pontoon, so the best place, I'm in a dry suit, I'm nice and warm.
I'm going to go on in, come on board here.
Come on to the boat. Yeah, easy.
Try and do this. You've got to do this later.
My job there at the time was to secure his lower half in a way that we didn't lose him under the water.
Oh, he's a big lad, isn't he? Yeah, he is. Right.
Right, I might need to lose this boy. Can we get your arms up so we can try and squeeze this life buoy around you? Because at the moment we're struggling to get you in the boat. Okay, come on the boat with me again.
The patient in question was unable to use the life ring due to the fact that his body had started to shut down and he was unable to move his arms. He's losing heat into the sea. No, he didn't have long left.
With the casualty fast becoming critical, the crew realised that one way or another, they must get him out now.
Okay. Right, we're going to try and get you up out of the water now, okay? You dig deep, and you give it everything you can to get him out of the water and into the boat. Okay, all right. 3 guys. 1, 2, 3. No. You right there? You okay?
He was a dead weight lift, and it took the strength of 3 men to pull him over the side.
As soon as he was on board, then we could put a blanket over him.
We cover him with what I carry in my parabag to try and reduce the last of his heat loss.
With the casualty now out of the water, but unresponsive and fading fast, stand-in helm James has to locate the ambulance waiting somewhere on the river's edge.
Blue lights over there, guys. I don't know if that's ours or fish. It might be Coast Guard. Nice and snug.
Found Coast Guard Dark Lifeboat information. We have a casualty on board. Do you have a location for the ambulance over?
Cracking job. You're doing all right. You have this boat very, very quickly. A bit late for swimming, isn't it? No? Ambulance is with you. You get my thermal probe out. Just test your temperature, skipper. See what's going on. See how cold you got. Guys, this is hypothermic as far as I can't get a reading.
He was very cold, severely hypothermic. Fellow crew were waiting on the quayside for us, get as much assistance because he was a big lad, and then onto a stretcher.
Right, watch your backs, guys, because he's very heavy. All right, buddy. We all got hand? Yeah. And lift. Forward. Right. Okay, I've got that. I'll have that.
The casualty is rushed to the waiting ambulance and on to Torbay Hospital.
I was born in Torbay Hospital, the early Torbay Hospital. You think afterwards, when it's all done and dusted, you start to think back what had happened if they hadn't turned up. Then you realise what could have gone wrong. Well, I'd drowned, quite literally, you know.
Oh, he's pretty lucky. I'm sure he's thought about it many times since.
And Lionel's not alone in having a truly memorable night.
I'd be quite happy to cover for Dart if they wanted me to go down and cover them again. They're a really good crew, they're really welcoming.
But James wasn't the only first-timer on the Shout that night.
This was a brand new boat that hadn't actually touched the water before. And it launched, and on its first launch, it saved a life.
So it's definitely a life saved?
Oh, definitely a life saved.
What do you say to people that sort of fish you out and save your life? All you can say is thank you. It sounds totally inadequate. But it's a job to put into words.
The lifeboat volunteers are on call day and night, ready to put to sea and river in order to save lives. But their duty of care often extends way beyond the rescue.
So the day after, I went back to the station to collect my gear from the crew. One of the guys said that they were going out for a paddle a couple of days, and would I like to join them to build my confidence back and to get myself back into a boat. And that has helped me no end, and you know, I thank them for that day, because I don't think I possibly would have got back in a kayak if I hadn't have done it straight away.
Someone else who returned to thank the lifeboat crew who saved them was Mark, with his daughter Alex, whose spinal injuries had left everyone worried that she may never walk again.
Alex she's 100% now. She's had no medical issues or anything afterwards. She's great. She's full of happiness and joy. Going over and meeting the crew in Courtown, like, I mean, you know, it was kind of surreal, and and then to find out, like, one of them was the local priest. You just don't think about those people in that certain ways.
Have a good day. Look after yourself. Oh yeah, absolutely.
We went to Sunday Mass. Father Tom was outside shaking everybody's hands, and Alex went up and thanked him. It was quite moving.
I think I've pretty much moved on. I mean, like, I'll always remember it, but I'm really excited. I can't wait to get back out on the jet ski and kayaking and doing all my summer sports.
You have to get home before the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start.
If somebody's not trying to take their face out of the water, they're pretty poorly.
Unfortunately, at that moment, our radio decided to break.
He's in, go, go, go.
It's difficult to see someone that determined to take their life.